Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up and repotting my dragon style Schefflera. Here is a look at the tree. You can see there's been a lot of aerial roots grow over the winter. The foliage isn't looking really nice. It had a bit of scale insects on it over the winter. So I think my first step today will be to defoliate the tree so I can see the structure of it clearly, prune it up, and then repot it. I brought this tree out of the plant room just a couple of days ago, and I did spray it down with soap and water. But there's a lot of scale insects, blisters on the leaves, and once it's outside, you know, it's like summertime for these trees and they just grow like crazy. So defoliating isn't a problem health-wise. It'll really like this sunshine out here, and I can get rid of, 90% of the scale blisters off the leaves, and it'll grow new leaves in very quickly and resume growing, especially after the repotting. I find a lot of these tropical trees like the fresh bonsai soil. It's nice and airy and has a nice moisture level for tropicals, and they respond really well to repotting, especially if you keep them warm and in good light. So I may change the front of this tree. I've been looking at it, and I put a marker here. This could be a new front. I'll have a good look at it once it's defoliated and make my decisions. I checked the playlist on this tree, and I haven't repotted it since 2018, where I originally planted it in this 3D printed pot. So today it's going to get repotted for the first time in a long time, and I think the tree will like that, having fresh soil, room for the roots to grow. Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. This tree is a cutting off my Schefflera clump group, or banyan style Schefflera. It was a trunk that was kind of in the background, that was growing in kind of a strange direction, so I cut it out and planted it as a cutting, and it rooted and grew. And now it's starting to develop its own style. It's this sort of flowing dragon type style. So it's quite an interesting tree, and I'm looking forward to developing it into the far future, hopefully. There's an aerial root growing from here across the top of this branch. So there's a lot of new aerial roots on the tree from this winter. This one here that goes down. So I'll be positioning the aerial roots. There's another one here I can position, kind of getting the vertical dropping down into the soil. So that's one nice thing about repotting trees that get aerial roots, is that you can reposition the roots and get them going in a better direction. Okay, I'm almost done the defoliation. Few more leaves. And the tree's been growing really well in this pot. This was 3D printed by Spectra 3D, which is going out of business. They are changing their business model, and no more 3D printing. So thanks, Spectra. They did a fantastic job printing these pots for me, and they did it free of charge, which was really nice of that company. So there's the tree now. You can see that flowing, twisty kind of branch off to the one side. So when I repot it, I may position it over in the pot a bit more, giving this room, these aerial roots to drop down in the soil rather than over the edge of the pot. So the next step will be to get the tree out of the pot. Not only is the pot here 3D printed, I've painted it to look like concrete, and it's styled to look like a concrete pot. But so is the stand here. So that's 3D printed also. So I'll take that away and get ready to repot the tree. Now, I don't know how easily this will come out of the pot, but I'll try pulling. Oh, it's coming. There it goes. Lots of drainage holes in that pot. I think I put a few too many in there. So there is the tree. Wow. So it doesn't look too badly root bound, and it always watered well, so it's, you know, the tree was healthy. So I'll begin removing the soil from the roots. So I'll be bare rooting the tree, and then I'll check out the roots and do the root pruning. Always trying to get a better and better root base on these trees. You can see the moss has built up a bit of an organic layer on the top of the soil here. Yeah, there's a lot of roots that have kind of wrapped around the edges of the pot that'll have to untangle. But I'll definitely get it sorted out. On track once again. I've got to be careful of these aerial roots that I don't break them off. Yeah, I don't think I left it too long to repot. There's lots of soil still in the pot. You know, it's not packed full of roots that I can't untangle them and sort them out. So I'll work away, just carefully bare rooting the tree, and I'll wash the roots off, and then we'll come back and do the root pruning. Okay, I'm going to take the tree over to the washing station to wash the roots and get the remainder of the soil out. I'm ready to begin the root pruning. So one thing I've been doing lately is to fill this tray up with water. Just put a layer of water in the bottom of it while I'm working on the roots, and that keeps them hydrated nicely. So just like that. And then I can place the tree in the water, and they stay a little more moist. So here's a look at the root base. So you can see this aerial root. It's grown a large root over here, and also from the bottom you can see this is from that aerial root. There's a large root coming over here, and there's a lot of roots coming off of it. So it kind of snakes down. So that can, get some pruning, some trimming. There's a root here that's kind of growing out on top of this other root base here. I'll just untangle that because I think I'll want to prune the roots more. That's really in there. Yeah, so that gets that root loose. I don't know if I'll keep it or not. It's a little high. And then I have all these new aerial roots that I can position vertically in the pot. Kind of exciting getting those. So I'm just having a look at the root system. So one thing I noticed from the main tree here, out of all the roots, there's one kind of, it's not horizontal, it's actually going uphill a bit. And most of the others are kind of tapering down nicely into the soil. This is from a cutting, and you can see the ring of the original cutting, and then the roots have grown below that. And that's something that takes years and years to make go away before it starts blending in naturally with the original cutting, the new roots. So I think this root has to come off. It's just too high up. Yeah, so this root is going to come off. It's a nice root. It's just sticking up too much. So here I go. Big cut coming up. Like that. And then I'll clean that cut up, making it flush. And chances are I'll get new roots growing from this cut point. It usually happens on these trees. So like that. So that's pruned back. And I have roots below it here. Some nice roots. There's one sticking up here I can prune away. It's gone. There's one on the surface going up here I can take away. Some going up here. There's one sticking up here I can prune back. So this root here, there's a nice root below, and this one's kind of crossing it a bit. I have some roots coming out here, so I'm going to prune this part of the root off. Like that. Just to give the roots a bit more space, so they're not crowded in. This root, there's a really strong root coming out here, and it divides from 1 to 3, and it's better to divide it from 1 to 2 if possible, just like your branches. So I can either take out the middle one, this one, or this one. And I'm looking, it's a nice radial root, divides nicely. I think I'm going to take out the middle one. Like that. There's some growing up here on a funny angle. Get rid of that. Some growing upwards here. Some upwards growing ones here. Keeping everything flowing down into the soil if possible. There's some sticking up here I can prune away. Now, here's the radial direction here. This root's kind of cranked over a bit. It's not too bad. Maybe it can be repositioned a bit. Some roots growing up here I can prune away, and here. Yeah, I don't know. It's growing right above this bottom one. I've got a root here that's radial, one here that's almost radial. I don't know whether to prune that one away or not. Well, I'll leave that decision for later. So I got a new aerial root here growing. This one's looking okay. I've got a root here that's quite long. I'm pruning that one back. This one's growing too long. Prune that one back. I think it hit the edge of the pot. That one's kind of growing on the top. Prune those back. Now, this root here, I'm looking at it, it's kind of, crossing over all these other roots off the main tree. And it kind of spoils your view of these good roots. And it's growing from the inside of a curve here. I think in this case I'm going to remove that, so here I go. That is gone. And I'll clean that cut up also, so it heals nice and flush. That should be good. And then off of this aerial root, it goes into the ground here, and it just keeps growing until it hit the edge of the pot and subdivided. And I want to prune it back. So I'm going to go down into the soil here and prune it back right here. Taking that off. There's a root here going a bad direction. I'll prune that off. And there's a few roots growing from the bottom. I'll prune back. Kind of flattening out the root base on the bottom. If you've ever seen a tree that's blown over in the wind, you'll notice the root base looks like this. They're always flat on the bottom. They've tipped over and you can see it. It looks exactly like this, flat on the bottom. And that's just how they grow. All the nutrients in most soils are on the surface, so the roots kind of grow along the surface and not deep. I've got some crossing roots here. You can see this one comes out and goes up here. This one comes out and goes down. So I need to prune off the crossing parts, keeping them spreading in a nice direction. So these aerial roots can be positioned. I will trim off the really long bits of them. They'll root just fine. There's one root sticking down there. And then off of this aerial root I have another root that kind of goes wild and is very long. It doesn't interfere with the main root base too much. But is it attractive is the question. And I may have to wait. I'll prune off just the end of it. I may have to wait to decide until I've got the tree kind of positioned in the pot to see where it is. It depends on what front view I use. There's a crossing root there. Yeah, and that'll determine what I do with that root. So it's not a bad looking root system. These two roots are kind of converging here. I'm going to prune off this part of this one. And this part of this one. To keep them spreading out a bit more. The rest of the root system's looking pretty good. Yeah. Okay, I think, I've got the basic roots pruned up. There's still some questionable ones. Well, I can prune that one off. I don't know, I missed that one. Yeah, there's still some roots that I will decide upon once I position the tree in the pot. So I'll do that now, get a rough idea of where the front of the tree is going to be, the planting angle, and then I'll look at those aerial roots and decide what to do with them. Okay, looking good though. Okay, I'm trying the tree out in the pot now. So this was the front here. And it's okay, except, I don't know, everything's going backwards there on the apex. So I was thinking, maybe the back is a better front. Somewhere kind of like that. It doesn't show off that branch as much. This is definitely the better front for that. So maybe it's just a matter of growing a new apex here. I think I had it pruned to a branch that was going to take over and it died back. So to get it over further in the pot, I've got a big root sticking out here that needs to be pruned back. That'll allow me to get it over in the pot, and it's kind of a straight root with not much interest, so I'm going to prune it back short like that. I'll even prune this one. This one's not very radial, so prune it off like that. Yeah, that allows me to get the tree over in the pot more. I don't want it too far over. I want it to look comfortable in the pot. You don't want it jammed against the one side. This gives room for these aerial roots to drop down nice and vertical, which, you know, will really add to the interest of the tree as they thicken up. This aerial root that's growing out here, I'm going to try and feed it. Oh, I think it's just going to break off, but I will. It's not flexible enough. It's already dried out, but whatever, I'll try. Oh no, I don't think that worked, but it'll dry up. Yeah, so I think somewhere here in the pot is looking good. Yeah. I'm just checking, you know, the front. No. Yeah. I like it about there. So there's the front view. Could rotate it just a bit more, maybe like that. And there's another aerial root that's dropped down back here. So I think that's pretty good. The root base looks good in this view. I could prune off this one leg here, but I don't think I need to. And I'm just checking to see if there's enough room for the roots to grow in the pot. Oh yeah, I wanted to check this root coming off the aerial root. So it's kind of hitting the edge of the pot, and it doesn't need to, so I'm going to prune it off even shorter, taking the tip off it. That gives it a bit more room to grow. Okay, I think everything's good. I'm going to plant the tree now. So I'll get my drainage screens in the bottom and get a base layer of soil and then position the tree. I've got a one-piece drainage mesh in the bottom. It wasn't a problem this repotting. The roots weren't really entangled in the mesh very much, so I'll continue to use that in this pot. I don't use this in my Sarissa because they grow through all the drainage screen and then get entangled with it. But it'll be fine with this Schefflera. So I'll get a base layer of soil in the pot now. So I'll position the tree now, kind of getting it, the front accurately positioned. That's looking good there. Making sure not to disturb my aerial roots. Boy, it sure feels tropical here in the greenhouse. It's 30 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's got to be 80, maybe higher than 80. Okay, I think that's good. The tree's in there nice and stable. Let's just check the positioning of it before I give it a water in case I have to do any adjustments. Here's a look at the tree in the pot now. I think all is looking good. I was able to move the tree over to the left-hand side a bit more. It doesn't look too crowded. I've got those aerial roots in the soil now. So I think it's time to water the tree. Okay, here I go with the water. You can hear the soil sucking up the water. I've defoliated the tree, but I haven't done any pruning yet. So now I'm going to look at the tree and decide if any branches need pruning back or eliminated. So let's have a look at the tree from the front. Okay, here's the front of the tree. So I have this branch here is kind of crossing in front of the one behind, and I think it's more important that you see the one behind, so I'm going to remove this branch. So here I go, a big cut coming up. Just making sure I was recording there. These branches have grown since I pruned it last time, but they're not, you know, ridiculously long. I don't think I need to prune them at all. Not that one, not here. This one, it's going vertical in a big way. And I would rather it fan out. It's kind of growing above this branch and not, you know, keeping this branch flatter. So I'm going to take it off quite hard back to here. like that. Again, you know, I've got these branches shooting vertical, so I'll take the tips off of these ones, looking for outward facing leaves or leaf scars. This back one also. Now let me have a look from the front. That's looking better. And I think this branch here is kind of growing almost on the inside of the curve here, so I'm going to take this one out also. I think that cleans that up a bit. I think that's looking good. Okay, so it's pruned up, repotted, ready to grow for the summer. I'll spin the tree around so you can see it from all sides. So here's the front, coming around to the right hand side, coming around to the back. You can see that root, how it goes through the branch there. Over to the left hand side, and back to the front. So now it's time for today's updates, and for today's updates we're going to head over to the community orchard where there's some trees in bloom. Before we head over to the orchard, in our backyard we have a plum tree here that is in full bloom and looking beautiful. Also in the backyard is the pear tree, and the flowers are just starting to come out on the pear tree. I'll head over to the community gardens now and we'll check out the blooms there. I'm back home now. I had a fantastic walk through the forest and the community orchard, seeing all the trees. Spring is such a wonderful time of the year. So my Schefflera is ready to grow for the summer, and it's looking quite nice, I think. It's a very unique looking tree, let's put it that way. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.